Hey guys, welcome to the Daily Word Bible Study. A plain and simple, book by book, chapter by chapter, and verse by verse study through the entire Bible. We're in Isaiah chapter 14, and we're looking at the person of Lucifer, the devil, Satan, the great serpent, the arch enemy of God, and the cause of all of this chaos in the world. So we've been kind of doing a glimpse of who he is. Um, One of the characteristics of his personality is arrogance. And that arrogance, pride, caused him to think he could rebel against God. I also want to kind of remind you that he is not God's opposite. He is not God's, God is not tussling. There's no struggle at all. In fact, God is controlling Satan. And Satan obeys God, even though he rebelled and, think to destroy him. So by no means, he is doing God's bidding. That probably is hard to comprehend. So the picture of Job comes to mind, where Satan went as far as God allowed him. He didn't even think or try to push back. So again, the midst of this epic battle between good and evil, there is no epic battle between good and evil. This is all God's plan. And sometimes, again, you may have a hard time comprehending that, but it's God's plan. I'm going to go back, pick it up, read through and finish off, and then shoot to finish the 14th chapter of Isaiah. So I'm going to read from verse 12 again. This is Isaiah 14, and then just kind of move down. It says, "Shining morning star, how have you fallen from the heavens? You destroy the nations. You have been cut down to the ground. You said to yourself, I will ascend to the heavens. I will set up my throne above the stars of God. I will sit on the mount of the gods assembling in the remotest parts of the north. I will descend." Now, this place of the remotest parts of the north, and then notice the highest clouds. When you read through the Old Testament, you always read about the high mountains, the high places. They were high places of worship. Now, from the pagan standpoint, the concept is the higher in elevation you get, the closer to the gods. In this particular use, the higher elevation, Jerusalem is on a high elevation. Okay, never been there, but anyway, it's a higher elevation. So notice here you see this again, highest part of creation where, again, God reigns. Okay. So verse 14 says, "I will ascend to the highest clouds. I will make myself like the Most High, but you will be brought down to Sheol, to the deepest regions of the pit." Now, verse 16 says, "Those who see you will stare at you. They will look closely at you." Now, it's hard to tell at this point if he's going back to a man or Satan himself, how at some point mankind will come to look at Satan and basically, this is it. This is the man, right? So verse 16 again, "Those who see you will stare at you. They will look closely at you. Is this the man who caused the earth to tremble, who shook the kingdoms, who turned the world into a wilderness, and who destroyed the cities? It will not release the prisoners to return home. All the kings of the nations lie in splendor, each of his own tomb. But you were thrown out without a grave, like a worthless branch covered by those slain with the sword, and dumped into a rocky pit like a trampled corpse." Now, when you see this kind of language, Sometimes in theological terms, you could probably say that this is like an anthropomorphic term. The idea of it is using human characteristics to describe something, and I'm going to say this, to describe something that is hard for us to comprehend, to look upon. In other words, how does Satan look? How does God look? So that's why sometimes you will see God is, talked about of taking Israel under my wings, but God doesn't actually have wings. So in other words, the idea is to give us sort of a mental picture of what's going on right here. All right. So verse 19, but you are thrown out without a grave, like a worthless branch covered by those slain with the sword, and dumped into a rocky pit like a trampled corpse. You will not join them in burial, because you destroyed your land and slaughtered your own people. The offsprings of evildoers will never be remembered. Prepare a place of slaughter for his sons, because the iniquity of their fathers. They will never rise up to possess the land, or fill the surface of the earth without a city. Now again, he kind of switches back over to talking about some of the great kings of the earth, like Assyria and Babylon. Remember, he was talking about Babylon, and then he kind of gave us this image of Satan, who was really kind of pulling the strings, the spiritual strings behind the scenes. Verse 22, I will rise up against them. This is the declaration of the Lord of hosts. I will cut off from Babylon and her reputation, remnant, offering, and posterity. This is the Lord's declaration. I will make her a swampland and a region of screech owl, and I will sweep her away with the broom of destruction. This is the declaration of the Lord of hosts. So again, in reading sometimes this prophet, you see he switches over, and then he gave us this glimpse into Satan, and he switches back. We saw that in Ezekiel chapter 28. We didn't read the first part of it where he's talking about the prince of Tyre. Then he switches over and starts talking about the king of Tyre. And one of the things about understanding that is that one is when he talked about the prince of the power of the air. Jesus said the prince of the power of the air will come and have nothing in me. Paul talked about in Romans 6 that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, power, and rulers of the darkness in the heavens. Okay, so that's where Satan's rule is. And so again, to kind of give us this kind of glimpse of what is going on behind the scenes here. All right, verse 24. The Lord of hosts has sworn, as I have purposed, so will I be, as I have planned, so it will happen. I will break Assyria in my land. I will tread him down on my mountain. Then his yoke will be taken from them, and his burden will be removed from his shoulders. Now, remember the idea of the bondage, the yoke of bondage. As this is kind of going on right here, Assyria is conquering. If you look at the timing of this prophecy, Syria is conquering the land of the Israel, the northern kingdom. Verse 26. This is the plan prepared for the whole earth, and this is the hand stretched out against all the nations. The Lord of hosts himself has planned it. Therefore, who can stand in his way? It is his hand that is outstretched, so who can turn it back? Now, remember I said too that we're going to get into this section where he is prophesying against all the nations around. Okay? So then he says, in the year that King Ahaz died, this oracle came. Now remember, Ahaz is probably the last king of Israel, the last king. Then he says, don't rejoice, all of you Philistines, because of the rod of the one who struck you is broken. For a viper will come from the roots of the snake, and from its eggs come a flying serpent. This is where am I here? This is the firstborn. No, go back. Then the firstborn of the poor will be well fed, and the impoverished will lie down safely, but I will kill your root. But I will kill your root with hunger, and your remnant will be slain. Well, you gates, cry out, you city, tremble with fear, Philistine, Philistia, and for a cloud of dust is coming from the north. Now, this cloud of dust is referring to Babylon, and there is no one missing from the invaders' ranks. What answer will be given to the messengers from the nations? The Lord is found in Zion, and his afflicted people find refuge in her. I'm going to go to chapter 15. He says, an oracle against Moab, Or in Moab is devastated, destroyed in a night. Ker in Moab is devastated, destroyed in the night. Dibon went up to his temple to weep at its high places. Moab wails on Nebo at Medeba. Every head. Oh, there we go. Okay. All right, here we go. Where am I at here? Oh, okay. All right. I don't know what happened here. All right, here we go. Verse 2. Let me go back. Start over again. Okay. An oracle against Moab, or in Moab is devastated, destroyed in the night. Ker in Moab is devastated, destroyed in the night. Dibon went up to his temple to weep at his high places. Moab wails on Nebo and at Medeba. Every head is shaved, every beard is cut off. In its streets they wear sackcloth, and on the rooftops and in the public squares everyone wails, falling down and weeping. Heshbon and Eli cry out, their voices are heard as far away as Jahaz. Therefore the soldier of Moab cry out, and they tremble. My heart cries, my heart cries over Moab, whose fugitives flee as far as Zoan, to Eglag, Shalishiah. They go up to the slopes at Luhith, weeping. They raise a cry of destruction on the road of Heromion. In the waters of Nemirium are desolated. The grass is withered, the foliage is gone, and the vegetation has vanished. So they carry their wealth and belongings over the wadi of the willows, and for their cries, it echoes throughout the territory of Moab. They're railing to reach Eglam, and they're railing to reach Birim, Birim, and the water of the Debog, the full of blood. But I will bring, I'll get this right, guys. The water of the Dibon are full of blood, and I will bring Dibon even more than this, a lion for those who escape Moab, and for the survivors of the land. Okay, I'm going to squeeze in chapter 16. Send lamb to the rulers. Send lamb to the ruler of the land, and Selah to the deserts, to the mountain daughters of Zion, like a bird fleeing, forced from the nest. The daughters of Moab will be at the forge of Enon. Give us counsel and make a decision. Shelter us at noonday. With shade that is dark as night, hide the refugees. Do not betray the ones who flee. Let my refugees stay with you and be a refuge for Moab. for the aggressor. When the oppressor is gone, destruction has ended, and marauders have vanished from the land. These marauders are raiders. Then, in the tents of David, a throne will be established by faithful love, a judge who seeks what is right and is quick to execute justice will sit on the throne forever. So this is the prophecy of David here. Notice he said, the judge who seeks what is right and is quick to execute justice. I don't think we kind of know just how precious that is to have a government that is founded upon righteousness and justice. But that day is coming. Verse 6, we have heard of Moab's pride, how very proud he is, how haughtiness, his pride, his arrogance, and his empty boastings. Now we kind of know where that we get that from the prince of evil, Satan. Therefore, let Moab wail, let every one of them wail for Moab. Mourn, you are completely devastated for the raising case of Kerhesh, for Heshbon, Terence vineyards, and the grapevines of Sibmath have withered. The rulers of the nations have trampled its choice vines, that reach as far as Jazar. They spread to the desert, the shoots spread out, and they reached the Dead Sea. So I joined with Jazar to weep for the vines of Sibmath. I drenched Heshbon and Elash with many tears. Triumphant shouts have fallen silent over your summer fruits and your harvest. Joy and rejoicing have been removed from the orchards. No one is singing or shouting for the joy in your vineyards. No one tramples grapes in the winepress. I have put an end to the shouting. Therefore I moan like the sound of Moab, as does my innermost being for Koresh. When Moab appears on the high places, when he tires himself out and comes to his sanctuary and pray, it will do him no good. This is the message the Lord previously announced about Moab. And now the Lord says, in 3 years, as a hired worker counts, Moab's splendor will become an object of contempt, in spite of the very large population, and those who are left will be few and weak. Now, the next few chapters, we're going to see God giving these prophecies of these surrounding nations of Israel, those who have been wicked. You're going to see God give these prophecies. So that's why I said one of the things of the writings of the prophet here, not only is it the doom of Israel, the restoration of Israel, but also some of the nations around the world. And then also the future prophecies that are to come. Now, if you were living during this time, it would be like headline news. In other words, if this prophecy was going, you could visualize what is going on. Just like if someone, again, a true prophet, was to prophesy today about all that's going on with Ukraine, in Israel and Palestine, all of these nations around, right, where there's a lot of turmoil, we could visually see it today if there was a true prophet who could prophesy that. Okay, and that's how this is here. And you know what is interesting, also to keep this in mind, that these prophecies are given years before this happened. So when Bible critics try to dismiss these prophecies, I'm going to say, you can't, but they do. And why? Anyway, they do it because of their sinfulness. Alright guys, don't forget to like and share this video and subscribe to BP the Bible Perspective. And as always, if you have a thought or comment, add it to the comment section below. All comments are welcome. I will see you in the next study.